Well, this is going to be fun. I never thought I'd be making a YouTube video I actually expected people to watch. Especially one regarding the horseshoe theory of all things. Hello, my name is Richard Thorndike, and welcome to the first episode of Talking to the Thorn Bush. Working title. I know, I'm sorry. I'm new to this, please bear with me. I'm also going to try to do this all in one shot, which is probably going to be a big mistake, but YOLO. Just YOLO. Before I really go on with the meat of my content, I want to make a couple of major disclaimers. One, I have my own biases, and I have my own perspectives. I'm aware of that fact, I know it's going to be brought up, and I know this is a no kid Sherlock kind of statement, but this is YouTube. So, before anybody says I am talking with my feelings or my perspectives don't fully match the reality as a whole, I'm aware of that. This is mainly for entertainment and just starting a conversation. Number two, I am a selfish person. I wouldn't exactly call myself a jerk or a butt, but I am extremely individualistic. Everything I talk about from this perspective is from a strictly individualistic standpoint. Keep that in mind as you listen to this video. 3. I do not claim to be part of any political authority, nor can I really show a whole lot of peer-reviewed sources regarding the subject of the horseshoe theory. Believe it or not, there isn't much regarding this subject. Long story short, I'm just shooting the bull here. I'm trying to offer my own perspective of things and get my feet in the water when it comes to YouTube commentary. And I know that these waters can be rather dangerous and possibly shark infested, but I like talking. YouTube seems to be a good place to talk. So, without further ado, let's begin. So, what is the horseshoe theory? Sadly, I'm going to pull a Wikipedia article here. According to Wikipedia, the horseshoe theory asserts that the left and the far left and the far right, rather than being opposites and opposite ends of a political continuum, in fact, closely resemble one another, much like the ends of a horseshoe. The theory is attributed to French writer Jean-Pierre Fary. I am horrible at pronouncing names. Sue me. Proponents of the theory point to a number of similarities between extreme left and extreme right, including their propensity to gravitate to authoritarian or totalitarianism. Now, there have been a bunch of criticisms regarding this, mainly the fact that the horseshoe theory is a bit disingenuous, mainly in the fact that the political ideologies themselves are very different and far more complex than what can be drawn on a simple piece of paper, let alone a horseshoe. But the thing is, people like me who use the term horseshoe theory don't really use it because we actually think they are the exact same thing. I don't think that the far left are secretly a bunch of Nazis. But the thing is, what I do ultimately believe is that regardless of what their ideologies actually are, they're going to lead to ultimately similar results. When I was younger, I remember hearing some stories of civil and political unrest that went on in the 80s and 90s. Keep in mind, I grew up in a very denominationalist environment. Around my neighborhood, there were a lot of Baptist and Methodist preachers, and a lot of them would talk about, how modern technology was potentially satanic, how Hollywood and rock music secretly had satanic messages encouraging young children of my age to join with the devil and hail Satan. Yeah, that didn't start with Glenn Beck. That was something that went on for quite a bit, actually, long before I even knew about him, at least. The funny thing is, fast forward 20 years later, and when it comes to people like Anita Sarkeesian, once again harping on video games, but it's for a slightly different reason. Essentially, with the far right, it's we need to ban the video games and the media image of women, for it is indecent and immoral and promotes the objectification of women. But the ultra left says we need to ban video games and the current image of women. It promotes sexism and the objectification of women. Different reasons, slightly different in motivation, but ultimately at least the exact same thing. Ban video games for the image of them is indecent and immoral. And funny thing is, I'm seeing this a lot lately. I don't know what your guys' experiences are with the alt-right, and they very well could be different from mine. But the extent of my dealings with them can basically be summed up to, you will join us or be crushed, we'll be on the right side of history, and those who have not joined us will be left in the dust. And that's typically followed by something like MAGA or whatever. My thing is, I had a very similar experience to that with BLM and people who at least claimed to be part of Antifa. And here's the thing. I'm a very individualistic person. I am for as much personal freedom as possible, short of anarchy. If you want to know what I mean by that, I strongly recommend you see the Thinkeries video on Slab City. I'll see if maybe I can leave a video of it in the description. It's kind of atrocious. But part of my reason for being so individualistic is because I've read history over and over again that it seems like when collectivism takes over, it's only a matter of time before someone like me ticks off the wrong person in power, and then I go away, rather permanently. In ancient Rome, those who dared question the empire, namely Christians, were put into the Colosseum to be devoured by lions and slaughtered in rather gruesome and ugly ways for the entertainment of the masses. French Revolution, those who were so much as accused of questioning, the ideals of the revolution were sent to the guillotine. Ticked off the wrong Nazi, off to the gas chambers with you. Stalin doesn't like your face? Hope you like lead. All these scenarios had technically radically different ideologies, but they all lead to the same result. People like me who dare question anything will eventually be on the raw end of a barrel. To talk about myself specifically, I'm a crippled person. And in my experience, this has caused me to be hated by people on both sides. On the right, I am an extreme drain on society. People like me tend to need welfare programs, and we're typically viewed as not putting back in. And on the left, I'm looked at as a parasite on my parents, and I should have been aborted so I wouldn't have to suffer. When I brought these kinds of experiences specifically to people of the alt-right, I've typically gotten the response of, well, we're not really like that. We value your mind as much as anything. I would buy that, except at one time, I remember a time where many liberals thought that someone like Antifa would never become a normal part of liberalism. And abortion would never become just another form of birth control. Yet, here we are in 2017, and that's exactly what it seems to have become. The reason why people like me use the term horseshoe theory is not because we actually think that the left, once again, we don't think they're secretly Nazis, though To be honest, I would not be surprised if some were. They have proven to be a bit hypocritical. We use it because ultimately for people like us, it's still going to end the same way. Nazi or communist, freethinkers and detractors will still be eliminated, and people will still have to bow down to some sort of authoritative party, whether it's their fellow comrades or their fellow nationalists. And certainly not an environment I want to raise kids in. And so, unless there's some sort of white nationalist or Marxist Valhalla I don't know about, there's not a winning side for people like me. No matter which side wins, I lose. And you know what? Maybe it's a basic biology thing. Maybe this is one of those cases where individuals ultimately will be cannibalized. So maybe it's inevitable people like me die off. I've already accepted the fact that natural selection wise, I am an extreme rarity that has to think his life too mar and mess. And, I may eventually get to the point where I die by someone's hands, but I'm not going to pick the slightly less evil of two ideologies, as far as I'm concerned. They'll more than likely morph into something I oppose. It's essentially for me like picking, how do you want to die? Death by boiling hot water or death by being cooked by steam? No matter which way I die, it's still death. Or at least, #winning is concerned. And look, this is going to be the part where I divert from script a little bit. People who claim to be liberals, those who are a part of Antifa. I really don't know if you're listening to this. You're probably not. But if you are, I'm only going to say this because I don't think it's too late. You did start this. All the bickering and moaning about how everything is sexist, how white people are oppressive because they act white, it already has led to a major backlash. The more you stir up a hornet's nest or poke at a bear, eventually it's going to bite back. In fact, it already has, and yet you're still poking at it. And I don't think you're going to like the result of it. I don't think anybody is really, except for those who are on the extreme right, who are these uber nationalists that think that somehow they'll be able to, recreate a 1,000-year kingdom or whatever. But you're not stopping. If you would only stop, I think a lot of this stuff would go away. But, it probably won't. I really don't think that this is ever truly going to end. Because in order for it to end, ultimately people are going to have to learn to decide for themselves. And people may not say it out loud, but society seems to love the mom mentality. Maybe it's a biological thing. I don't know. But I do know that what both sides are turning into is something I don't want to happen to this country. One of the reasons why I love America, one of the reasons why I want this country to continue to flourish, one of the things I want to conserve is the fact that people, even of radically different political viewpoints, if they can find one or two things in common, can speak, and even if they don't become friends, they can become acquaintances at the very least. One of the things I love about this country is the power of the conversation. And I don't ever want to see that go away. Heck, the whole reason why I'm doing this is because, well, Adrian Paladin, of all people, kind of encouraged me to do it. Shout out to her, by the way. She is a wonderful commentator with fully annotated sources for all our conversations. I strongly suggest you go to her channel. But I love to talk. And I love to be at peace with people. And I don't want to see that go away. And maybe it's inevitable that people like me die out. Maybe it's inevitable that either the globalist or the white nationalist will win. And you know what? If they succeed in making their utopia or whatever, all I can say is, sarcastically, good for you. You know, you're not going to have me around to bother you anymore. But beware that almost any system can quote unquote work whenever you're willing to give your body, mind, and soul to the ideology and be absolutely numb to the drawbacks. Like, I use the whole how would you rather die by steam or by boiling water. Even as you're boiling in that water, if you can convince yourself that you are doing it for the good of the country or the good of the ideology, you will convince yourself that what you're doing is good. Even if by all normal and rational appearances, it's very, very bad. Be careful what you wish for, because I really don't think you're going to like what will come of all this. This video is already a lot longer than I expected it to be. I will leave proper links in the description if I can. I hope I didn't bore you guys too much. If you do like, I would very much like it if you would subscribe and possibly share. I am new, and I will admit I would like to call the publicity I can get. And like I said, everything I have here is boiled down to my personal experiences. So if you have a rebuttal, I would love to hear it. So don't be shy to, say anything in the comments. Just as a favor, I would ask maybe we be a little bit civil and maybe try to keep to the conversation at hand and not resort to flame wars. Ultimately, I can't stop you from doing whatever you want in the comment section, but that is a request I have. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed the episode, and have a wonderful day. Project False Icons.